Think you can make a move to paradise in Southwest Florida? Well, before you pack your bags for Fort Myers, let's dive into the not-so-sunny side of life here you might not have considered. From the relentless heat and humidity that can make your perfectly styled hair explode, to the unexpected guests like gators and critters making your backyard their own. Life here is full of surprises. And let's not forget about the seasonal serenades of hurricanes, the symphony of sneezes thanks to allergy season, and the chorus of honking horns during your commute that might just make you think twice about moving here. Join me as we explore the top 5 reasons why living in Southwest Florida might not be for everyone. Get ready for an honest look at paradise, and it's not just about the sunshine and sea breezes here. My name is Feltis, and I am a realtor here in Southwest Florida, and I love helping people just like you every day make a move to Southwest Florida. Hit the subscribe button below and shoot me a call, send me an email, or give me a text, and let's talk about your real estate needs moving here to Southwest Florida. Okay, so first up on our list is the heat and the humidity. Now, Florida is ranked the warmest state in the country, which averages 70.7 degrees for the highest average temp for the year. We are number 4 in humidity as far as the humidity goes for the country as well. So we do have a lot of heat, number 1, and the humidity is number 4. So when you combine those two, you get a lot of warm, muggy days and a lot of sweaty days outside. So the best thing to do to combat that is to just, if you don't like the heat anyway, is to stay inside in the heat of the day from say 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock and just get all of your activities that you need to do outside done early in the morning or later in the evening when it's not quite so hot. Number 2 that you may not want to deal with on a regular basis down here is the allergy season, mold and dust. So with those 3 things combined, you're looking at, for allergies, we have about a 10-month-long season of allergies for different reasons. And the beginning of that is going to be from, say, January to April. You're going to have the tree pollen. So if you're allergic to tree pollens, that's going to be the 4-month period that's going to be worse for you. And then once the tree pollens are done, then you're going to go into the grass pollens. And those are going to be throughout the summertime. And then lastly, you're going to have plant pollens, which would be from the end of when the grass pollen times are until through probably around October. So we only get about 2 months worth of time that's not going to be an allergy issue for you. And we also have mold in our area because of the humidity and the temperatures. When you have standing water in the summertime and you have a lot of rain and humidity, it's going to cause problems with mold. So the worst part about mold is when you get inside of your house. So the best way to combat that is to keep the humidity in your home below 50%. If you do that, you usually won't have any problems with mold unless there's standing water somewhere that's not getting removed on a regular basis. So some of the things that you can do to combat that is to have your thermostat set at a temperature that will keep your humidity below 50%, or have a dehumidifier in your home or something like that to ensure that you're not going to have mold issues. Now, I did have a client a couple years ago that they were from the Middle East, so they're used to the warm temperatures, and he didn't like to have his temperature in his house below 78, 79 degrees. So what that did was it caused mold to grow inside of his home. And when we sold the home, the buyers had an inspection done, which I highly recommend for everybody to do. And when it came out that there was mold in the home, we had to have it remediated. Now, it's not a cheap thing to do either. So we found out that way that you can't have your humidity above 50% in the home if you want to keep mold from getting in your house. So that's the most important thing when you are dealing with mold. So number 3 on our list of things that may not be so peachy here in Southwest Florida is the traffic. And when I say that, if you're coming from a larger city or something like that, our driving is not that bad. I mean, you can have a commute that's in the morning traffic. It can be bumper to bumper for 15 minutes or so, but you're not going to sit in a 6-lane highway for 3 hours trying to get to work. It's not that bad of a commute or anything like that. So when I say what I say, our traffic does get bad in the seasons, and part of that problem is we only have 2 roads, 75 and 41, that run from, say, Punta Gorda. It runs from further up, but if you're looking from Punta Gorda down through Naples, those are your only 2 avenues of getting somewhere for any length of distance. So if there's problems on 75, everybody goes to 41. So it just causes traffic jams when you have not a consistent flow of traffic. So we also have construction and road work that they're working towards making our roadways better, and they are putting funds into that infrastructure, but it just takes time for it to happen. So that is the major problem. Okay, so number 4 on our list is the hurricanes and the storms that happen here during the summertime. So hurricanes, they do happen a lot. I'm not gonna lie about that. I've been down here since 1999 and I have probably incurred about 6 hurricanes. Some of them were direct hits, some of them weren't. Some of them weren't major hurricanes. So on an average, we have a major hurricane every 15.2 years here in Fort Myers, and we will either get a glance or a side swipe or a direct hit from a smaller hurricane every 3 years or so. And the best thing to do for a hurricane is just to be prepared, understand how they work, and we get alerts probably at least a week in advance anymore, maybe longer than that, because they track them all the way from Africa, and they know where they're at and where they're probably projected at, and you'll see the spaghetti graphs and all of that, so you know what's going to happen roughly. So if you're planning on leaving and evacuating, do it with plenty of time before it happens. That way you don't run into traffic on 75 going north, because everybody will try and evacuate at the last minute. Just be prepared. Go get your supplies. But when May rolls around, hurricane season is around the end of May until the end of November. So get all your supplies, get your batteries, get your water, get your backup generator, anything that you can have to be prepared. Make sure that you are prepared, because that's the most important thing. So in addition to the hurricanes, we do have rainy season in the summertime. So when I say that, you're looking at storms that will happen almost on a daily basis in the summertime, and they only last about an hour to 2 hours typically. So plan your day around that. Look at your weather channel every day. If you got to go outside, know when it's going to start, when it's going to roughly end, so that you can stay out of the elements as much as possible. With the storms in the summertime, you are going to get a lot of lightning. That's another part of the storms that people may tend to stay away from. And lightning down here, we are the lightning capital of the country. Texas is, I guess, close. Colorado is close. And then I guess the number 1 in the world is a little lake in Venezuela, I believe. And that's where the most lightning strikes are per square mile. But we are number 1 in the country for number of lightning strikes per mile. So with that said, we're going to dive into number 5, which is the wildlife and the critters. When I say wildlife, I'm talking about the black bears, which you barely see them ever, but sometimes they'll get into the communities that are on the other side of 75 or even in town once in a while, and they're just foraging for food, and it's usually a mom and maybe a baby or 2, but they don't really attack anyone. You just got to mind your space and be aware of your surroundings at all times. Alligators, if you're golfing, you will definitely see alligators in some of the lakes here and there, and some of them do get kind of large. And if you've seen any of the YouTube videos of some of these dinosaurs, as they call them, because they're so large, walking across the fairways and things like that, they do get rather large. And I have seen probably 9-footers on golf courses out in Ave Maria that are, they are a little intimidating, but you don't go up to them, you don't try and feed them, you don't poke them or anything like that. You keep your distance. They'll keep their distance most of the time, but if they start to get aggressive, you just leave. There's no sense in trying to fight an alligator. It's not going to be good for you. We also have panthers, which I've lived here since I moved here when, 1993 is when I moved. 93 is when I moved here. Seen one Florida panther here, and that was a couple years ago on a golf course. And I actually thought it was a dog at first, but it kind of looked a little weird. And then I realized the tail was much longer. And by the time I realized what it was already in the woods and gone. So I did have one sighting in the 30 years that I've been here. So I can actually say that I've seen one, but you will see signs here and there that say, Panther crossing area or something like that, but I have yet to ever see a panther crossing where the signs are at. We also have the large snakes, which are invasive now to our area, and that's due to the fact that people think it's cool to have a big snake in their house, and then either mom says get rid of it, or it just gets too big and you don't want it anymore, so you take it out in the Everglades and you let it free. So what that did is now we have all of these large snakes that are just invading the area, I guess you would say. And you'll see videos on YouTube of pretty good sized alligators and snakes wrapped around each other having a fight to the death. There's a lot of them out there, but I have yet to see one in town or anywhere like that just roaming around. So you probably have to go out in the Everglades to see something like that. We also have the iguanas. They're more prevalent in Cape Coral than they are in Fort Myers, but there are several of them around. I've never seen any really large ones, but I have seen them jump off of into the canals and swim away. So they are good swimmers. So don't expect to, chase one down or anything. They're very evasive. So on top of the iguanas, we also have monitor lizards, but there's very few of those, but they will attack small dogs and cats. So just keep an eye on your animals. Keep them where they're supposed to be. And that goes with alligators and everything else. You don't want to be walking your dog along the edge of a lake at dusk. That's not a smart thing to do. And I have seen people do it and they lose their dogs because the alligators hide in those shallow, murky waters and they will attack as soon as they get a chance to get their food. So use your brains. Don't go into places like that, and more than likely you're not going to have any problems with any of our wildlife. As far as the bugs go, we're looking at mosquitoes, no-see-ums, and spiders, palmetto bugs, all sorts of things like that. Now, the no-see-ums, if you're not aware of what they are, they're very small bugs that you really can't even see, which is why they're named no-see-ums. But what they do is the females will bite you, and when they bite you, they secrete a saliva inside of your skin, and it's almost like a poison, and it will burn. And they itch for more than a day, it seems like. But we do have fire ants as well, so you want to steer clear of fire ants because they are definitely no fun to mess with. And you'll usually know it's a fire ant because there's a big mound up on the ground, and if you disturb them, you won't get bit by one. There's usually a ton of them that will come out at the same time, and you'll get bit by the first one thinking, well, I've got ants on me, and then you've got 10 bites at the same time. So just be aware of your surroundings. I know I've said that before with wildlife, but it's the same way with the bugs. Okay, that's the 5. Now I'm going to give you a bonus that you probably need to be aware of as well, and that is our insurance costs. And I'm going to talk about 2 different types of insurance costs. You have your car insurance, which is the biggest reason that we have higher rates for insurance, and if you Google it, it will tell you that Florida is probably one of the highest insurance places in the country due to the fact that we have probably 20% of our drivers are uninsured. So you have to have that uninsured motorist protection, and it's also a no-fault state. So a lot of times you could get in an accident with one of these people that's not insured, and then your insurance company has to increase their premiums to cover the amount of damage that happens on a regular basis with people that don't have insurance. So then we also have the homeowner's insurance, which you're going to have higher insurance, partly depending on where you're at. You may be in a flood zone. If you're in a flood zone, then you're going to have to carry flood insurance if you have a mortgage. If you don't have a mortgage, you don't have to carry flood insurance, but then you run the risk of having to redo your house if it floods. Typically what flood insurance does is if the water comes from the bottom up, and if it's a hurricane damage, usually the water can either go in through the ceiling, or it'll come in through windows or break a window or something like that. So they have to determine which insurance company is going to cover what, but you're going to want to get with your insurance companies to know those things as well. And one other tip as far as insurance goes, if you have a pool and it has a pool cage, be sure to read that section that covers pool cages, because some companies will cover your pool cage 100%, and other companies will put it on a sliding scale. So say your pool screen is 10 years old, and if they have it deemed as that lifespan is going to be 20 years for that pool screen, then you're only going to get half of what it would cost to replace that. So keep those things in mind when you're looking and shopping for your insurance. So I hope these things have helped you out and given you some ideas of what the worst things are that you can be looking at in the Fort Myers area as far as things that may scare you away. The way I looked at it when I moved here was, am I gonna have problems with the heat, the allergies, things like that? More so than I would be worried about having cold weather for 6 months, gray skies for 7 or 8 months, and having to shovel snow, drive or walk around through all the slush, have wet feet, have all these other issues that I hated living with when I was in Indiana. And ever since I've moved here, I can tell you personally, I've never had to shovel snow once since I've been here. So that is definitely a bonus. So with that said, these are probably the worst things that you're going to run into. So would you rather shovel snow, or would you rather have to deal with a hurricane once every 3 years, possibly, and a major hurricane every 15 years, and along the lines with all the other things? So my name's Kim Feltis, and I'm a local Southwest Florida realtor, and I would love helping you guys find your next home. So drop me a text, shoot me an email, or send me a call, and let's help you find what you're looking for in real estate.